Nowadays, if a realtor, broker, if somebody makes a mistake, before they even realize they made an honest mistake on a form, people are online, they're saying bad things about you, they're doing negative Google reviews, they're calling the regulator, they're telling their friends. There's a lot of pressure, and I want all realtors that are listening to this, it's okay. But the one thing that can't be questioned is your ethics. The context of today's world is fundamentally different, and I think it behooves us to really keep learning and to keep forcing ourselves to get better so that we can provide that advocacy and that client service that people are expecting from us, right?
The Real Thought Exchange, powered by NSAR. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Real Thought Exchange, powered by NSAR. I'm Roger Boutilier, the CEO for NSAR, and we have with us today Sandi Carroll, the president of NSAR. And our guest today is Don Innouye, the CEO from REIC, which is the Real Estate Institute of Canada. Welcome, Don.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
So maybe perhaps we can start this off with you telling our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like Roger said, I'm Don. I'm the CEO of the Real Estate Institute of Canada. I've been in role for a few years now, and I guess just guided by a personal mission to elevate standards and professionalism in the real estate industry. And as Roger would tell you, probably on and off the record, I don't stop. So I've been very fortunate to work hard at this, of a great institute that's been around since 1955.
That's great. And how long have you been with REIC?
So 6 years,
3 years,
okay. And 3 years as CEO.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
When you're having fun.
Yeah.
For those that might not be familiar with REIC, do you want to give a little background on what it is?
Sure, absolutely. So a bit of the history, REIC has been around since 1955. So we celebrated our 70th anniversary last year. So we've been credentialing through designation programs, real estate professionals and practitioners, and with a lot of different designation programs, 22 different designation programs for quite some time. If you go back far enough, we were actually once the educational arm of what's now known as CREA. But back in the day, it was the Canadian Institute for Realtor Associations. So that was back in the 50s into the 60s.
Very cool. You're actually 3 years older than organized real estate in Nova Scotia.
And I don't look it though, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not a day under 29.
Perfect. I'll take it.
Why should realtors be interested in REIC?
Good. I mean, it's a good question, right? There's a lot of discussion around professional development. There's a lot of discussion in the industry about education and sort of upskilling. And I think a lot of why people are attracted to REIC programs, it's a structured learning environment that leads to a formal credential, right? So it often feels, we have a lot of practitioners will say to us, I do my 20 hours a year, or I do this, right? I take this occasional course to specialize on something or just personal interest. But often you'll do a course and then sort of that's it, and it terminates. Whereas we've tried to design our educational pathways that you're building and you're going through a bit of a journey. And at the end of that journey, you're either certified or designated in a certain practice area. And it feels a little bit more fulsome and a little bit more robust. And I would sort of liken it to going through a university program and graduating with a degree versus just taking programs or taking courses piecemeal over the course of your career. So I think a lot of people like that structure and they like to sort of know where the end game is going. And then also, it adds a formal credential that you could tell your clients, right? About, hey, I made this decision to upskill and incorporate, this specialty as part of my professional practice so that I could focus more on sales and leasing, or I can focus more on legal issues in real estate, or whatever the interest area may be.
So do your courses include commercial real estate as well?
What's interesting? Great question. You wouldn't know the answer to this, but we actually are in the process of launching a brand new program that will hit the market on September the 1st, called Certified Commercial Advisor, the CCA program.
Cool. And I didn't set that up for Don. I legitimately did not know that. Okay, very cool.
We do have a couple other programs that I think you'll see, like the CLO. If you see anyone with those credentials and their email signature on their business card, that's Certified Leasing Officer. So you'll see some people that, and there's a few out in Halifax that are our members that they work for a business that has a high focus in leasing. So it's something that they do, and you'll also see the occasional CRF, which is certified in real estate finance. Often not necessarily people with a license or a registrant, but you'll see someone that's maybe working for a bank or working for an investment firm or working for a developer, doing all the financial modeling around real estate development and or mortgage underwriting. So there's some interesting programs that aren't well known. Let's just say.
Yeah, so you actually might have REIC might have I'll call them students, if you will, actually come from like commercial banking and investment firms, not just realtors.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's something that isn't really well known about REIC. We're sort of in the industry for sure, but we're adjacent to it at the same time. So about 40% of our members are practitioners, right? Realtors and brokers. 40% of our members work in the space of property management, whether that's sort of condo, strata, HOA, or whether that's commercial property management or industrial or residential. So we've got sort of those two pockets, and then we've got the rest, which are mortgage underwriters, appraisers, real estate finance developers. So we're a deceiving group because we go across the industry and not just deep in one space of it.
So are there ways, like say somebody has gotten a previous designation with you years ago, what's new for them that might encourage them to come back and get another one or something new that they might not be aware of?
Yeah, a great question, Sandy. I mean, it really comes down to a designation shouldn't be an endpoint for people, right? Like, I think we know this working in this industry that the industry is evolving, the economics are evolving, the market's constantly evolving, consumer expectations are certainly getting, a little bit more fulsome. And it requires our members to constantly learn, constantly upskill, constantly, certify and recertify. And while it's been sort of unpopular when I say this sometimes, there are certain skills that are perishable, right? Like when you think about when you went to university or college, like we learned a lot, we studied hard, we did the work, we did our exams and we got our degrees and diplomas. But time goes by, life happens, and suddenly I don't remember what was, in all I went to school for computer programming, but if you asked me to write a program now, forget it. Like I just wouldn't be able to do it. And I think real estate education falls into that space, right? And we can't get too comfortable with, oh, I took ethics 25 years ago, so I'm fine, right? The context of today's world is fundamentally different, and I think it behooves us to really keep learning and to keep forcing ourselves to get better so that we can provide that advocacy and that client service that people are expecting from us, right?
That leads me to a second question for you, sort of on the same thing. You speak fairly often about ethics and business performance, and how do you see that rolling out with realtors and their clients?
Yeah, ethics, it's funny. I never used to say this, but ethics is a perishable skill as well. And it's not something that every day we wake up and we like get in our car and we on the way into the brokerage saying, I'm going to be ethical today. I'm going to be ethical today. Life tests us in a variety of different ways, right? And I think it's important that we're constantly creating these moments where we can reflect on ourselves, how we make decisions, the behaviors that we have become sort of almost habits, and then continue to improve. So there is a direct correlation between what I would say are the professionals in this business, right? The consummate pros that, I guess I've said in front of audiences before, like everybody tell me who like the most ethical, like the top-notch realtor or broker that you know. Who is it? And everybody has an answer. And then I follow up with, well, are people saying your name? Are you saying your own name? And it's fascinating when that level of introspection kicks in because people go, "Oh yeah, like I guess that's right. Like I want to set the gold star. I want to be the example." So I think it's not a popular course. It's not a popular topic. Roger will tell you I do a lot of speaking. I bring this up and I get hit or miss. I get 50% of the group goes, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense." And 50% go, "What, are you saying I'm not ethical? Like why are you saying that?" But I think it's a practice area that we just want to ascribe to do better, right? And I think consumers today are very unforgiving, and sort of a real world relatable example that I've often shared is when I started my first business, I remember distinctly making a mistake on a sales agreement. Of course, I'm dating myself here, but this was back in the day when we had to write things by hand in triplicate on those carbon forms or whatever you call them. And I was on the highway driving home and I realized I put the wrong price in. I turned the car around, drove back. I looked at my customer and I said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake on that paperwork, on that form. Can we talk about it? Can we revisit it, make the changes and initial it? And of course, the answer was yes. Nowadays, if a realtor, broker, if somebody makes a mistake, before they even realize they made an honest mistake on a form, people are online, they're saying bad things about you, they're doing negative Google reviews, they're calling the regulator, they're telling their friends, and they're eroding your reputation, all for an honest mistake. And I think that sort of changed the game for us because the market almost regulates your behavior in real time, right? So we gotta stay on our toes. We've gotta continually like sort of get that process down, and we gotta keep training. We gotta keep because there isn't always the opportunity to say, I'm sorry, I made an honest mistake, right? So it's a tricky world that we operate in.
Well, it's the 365, 24/7 real-time world now, where everyone expects an answer yesterday, and if they don't get it yesterday, they go to someone else. And
Well, and that's hard too, right? You guys work in one of the most competitive commission-only environments where you're expected to juggle, okay, then the notion of professionalism, ethics, accountability, legislation. You have to be competitive. You have to be a bit of an economist, a clairvoyant with market conditions. You've got to be an appraiser. You've got to be a home inspector, and you've got to have this massive Rolodex. And when you say that all out loud, it's like, boy, that's pretty daunting, right? Because you're,
It
but
can be.
yeah, and Sandy, like I've got to a point now where I look at professionals like you and I think, you're sort of the Swiss Army knife of real estate because every day you're going into the office and you never know what you're gonna get. Like, oh, am I gonna get a call where I'm gonna have to give somebody some advice on what their property is worth? Or am I gonna, get a call about a legal issue and they want some guidance on, or am I gonna get a call about an aging clientele or demographic saying looking to downsize? I can't afford to lose money. What's the market like? Like, there's a lot of pressure, and I want all realtors that are listening to this. It's okay, right? It's hard. You're human beings. But the one thing that can't be questioned is your ethics. And that's where I see a causal link between, ethics and excellence or ethics and success in this business, because they go hand in hand.
well, along the ethics line is the ever present today. We want to raise the bar of professionalism in this industry. And that's an interesting topic, one that I struggle with because everyone's definition of professional is different. So you're not starting on common ground for the most part, but we hear it daily. We hear it from our national body CREA. We hear it from our members. We need to increase the professionalism in this industry. And I've heard you speak on this topic. So I'm kind of interested in getting your insight on how we would increase or what are the levers that we can use to increase the professionalism in this industry.
You know, we have this ability to just wake up today and do things slightly better, right? And if everyone in Nova Scotia, every realtor, just made slightly more effort, right? To be a little bit more transparent on their disclosure, to be a little bit more documented and organized, uh, to just go that extra mile, that extra step. And I don't want to make this sound like a cliche, but if thousands of realtors did this every day, that would by extension raise the standard, right? We have a lot of power in this industry. We've got the law, of course, on the one far side of this, and I'm always pushing regulators and legislators to increase the standards. And whether that's just with a pen stroke saying, oh, the licensing exam is now a 75% in order to pass instead of 50. If you remember, not that long ago, it was 50 and then it went to 60, then it went to 70. And I'm advocating for 75, not because I think the magic happens there, but just so people work a little bit harder. They listen a little bit more. They think a little bit more critically, like raise the bar to entry into the market, increase the number of hours that we expect of our practitioners each year. Just simple little things like this do, in fact, raise the bar. But your question, Roger, I think is, if we could really demonstrate that you can build a very fruitful and long-lasting, sustainable career in real estate by just being the epitome of ethics and professionalism, right? So that when someone said, "Who's the most professional broker that you know in the business?" people are saying your name. If everyone was fighting for that, just by elasticity, we would raise the bar. It would almost wouldn't matter what the regulator was doing because, that would be like, well, yeah, whatever. That's just the minimum
That's the
required.
minimum required.
That's the minimum required. The maximum is almost impossible because of the way that we're talking now, where there's no real definition. But what I would say is, not everybody gets to be an astronaut when they grow up, but the ones that work hard enough do. And in our business, if everybody just started working harder, showed up a little bit stronger, chose to actually answer questions a little bit more directly instead of evade, and get a little more comfortable with having crucial conversations with their clients or prospective clients, a lot would change and a lot would change fast because our reputation would change in the process. And I think part of it, Roger and Sandy, I think it's just an optics issue with the public. They define professionalism, unfortunately, by what they read in the paper and what they hear, as opposed to, like, because we don't hear about the bright shining stars, right? Because that's
No.
not fun.
What we hear is, Susie Q did so and so. Susie Q from, I don't know, somewhere in Nova Scotia, realtor. Like they always have to include that little bit. You don't hear about Joe Blow the mechanic who, they always put that little disclaimer in there. When they're doing bad, they always put in I guess that comes with having your career as a profession, right? So not that mechanics aren't professional. That's not what I mean. But the media always seems to pick up on and add the title realtor whenever someone from the community does bad. So
Well, and I like it from a consumer protection perspective. Absolutely. I believe we have an obligation. You more specifically are, fiduciaries for people's big life decisions. And I think it's important we get that right. But reputationally, I don't think it's fair to group everybody in the same
No.
bucket, right?
But if everybody's trying to raise their own bar personally, and then NSAR is trying to do that on a, association level, and then every level above it, if everybody's doing a little part, it gets a little bit easier along the way.
Well, I was reading a book lately, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it was, you just have to be 1% better today than you were yesterday. Just 1%. That's all you have to strive for. Just be 1% better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, small incremental changes, right? Not these wholesale changes be fundamentally different. Like just do things slightly better that and we know, get mentorship, get guidance, learn a little bit more.
Return that
Right.
phone call, return that text, return that email.
Yeah, it's fascinating how, when like the way we're talking about it, us three, it's very practical advice that we're giving, right? And I think some people will listen to this and go, it's not that easy. Well, you know what? It is that
It
easy.
is that easy.
It is that easy. You just have to
Yeah.
be disciplined enough to do it.
Well, and commit to it, these things become habits after 30-ish days, right? If you really commit to it, and the next thing you know it, wow, you're better and you didn't even realize it.
Exactly. Exactly right. So for those folks who aren't all that familiar with REIC, and I wasn't until, a few years ago, I know the FRI designation is one that's quite popular, SRES, but you've just come out with a new one. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
So if you're talking at sort of like the entry in or mid-career practitioner, the GRI program, that's this program is very unique, this designation program, because it's designed to build on education that exists in the market from NAR, from Korea, from other organizations that basically tackle sort of what I'll describe as sort of the four pillars of professional practice, whether that's, you know, buy side or buyer representation, whether it's, sell side or seller's representation, whether it's negotiating, pricing strategy, like some of the fundamentals that the industry over the years have said, yeah, you've got to know these four things, right? This is just part of your scope of practice. So what we do is we lay ethics on top of that. We allow our candidates to take, a few different pathways that mean something to them, because some people only want to be on the buy side, right? They want to specialize in first-time home buyers. They want a more youthful vibe with their approach. They're very competent with how they market themselves and very connected that way. And then we layer on ethics and then a certification exam with a few other requirements, and you'll get your GRI.C designation. Because again, when you think back to sort of one of the first answers I gave, I don't want anyone to feel like they're operating in isolation, and people forget realtors are entrepreneurs. They're small business owners, right? And they're selling homes, but they're also doing their bookkeeping sometimes. They're doing their taxes. They're making decisions. Some people contracts with their managers. They have a team. They're hiring and firing people. So we can't forget that, that's a wider scope, right? And we want people to have respect for the different pathways to designation and the different core competencies involved with running a business in today's market, which isn't easy, on top of all of the real estate competencies that are required. So it's an interesting program. And I think there's a lot of your members, in fact, Roger, and we've got a cohort of people that are going through this program right now just by taking a building blocks approach.
Excellent. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. We just ran, I think it was in April, we ran the SRES course, and interestingly, about 2 weeks before, we got a call from your office saying, hey, we've only got 3 people registered for this. And we were starting, so we started marketing it a little bit. And just like that, we got to the 20 that was required. And then it was like, well, can we add 5 more? And the instructor graciously said, I can go to 25, but that's as far as I can go. So we actually had 25 plus a waiting of, I think, 3 or 4 people if there were any cancellations. So clearly some of the courses that you offer are quite popular. When I say we, NSAR needs to do a better job of marketing them to our members. So.
Yeah. And how can we do that? Like, can we help you get that out to more people, I guess, because a lot of people aren't aware.
Yeah, they're not, right? And again, right, this is why we have programs that are structured, right? Because it puts some goalposts up, it explains what the end game looks like, and it gives people a schedule, right? I think in a couple of weeks we're doing an ABR course at your office again. So some of that 25 people, I think 10 of them have registered. There's still a bit of space left. And they're continuing on that journey, and we've structured it such that if they get through all 4 core courses before NSAR days in November, we'll be able to pin people
That
the
is
GRI designation
amazing.
on their lapel.
Yeah.
And that would just be incredible.
That would be phenomenal to be recognized amongst your peers and have a pinning ceremony. That would be top class.
Well, and I will say to you, when you walk into a room and clients see your pin, they ask, what is that pin you're wearing? And I know lapel pins are sort of, maybe it's a generational thing, but I suppose you could get a version of it on your iPhone if you wanted to hold your phone up and let somebody scan your QR code. But it's all about that pride, right? It's like on the internally facing side, it's a commitment to upskill and standard professionalism education in your scope of practice. But on the external side, which we don't talk about a heck of a lot, it gives you a competitive advantage. Clients perceive, credibility and trust and all of the soft stuff that's hard now in this market, right? We live in a world where nobody trusts anybody. So having a credential means, hey, I took ethics, I took these courses, I wrote a certification exam, I went through this journey, right? And it costs the money. It's an investment.
Exactly.
In yourself.
In yourself.
You got it. You got it. But I think if you want to stand out in today's market, it's not a bad way to do it, honestly.
And the funny thing is, if I've learned nothing in my 24 years at NSAR, realtors are highly competitive. So if they see a colleague with the lapel pin on with the designation, chances are they're going to say, well, how did you go about getting that? And, you're one up on me now. I have to do this now, which in and of itself helps raise that bar a little bit.
Well, that's the elasticity, right? That's the market effect. And I think I find myself having these conversations with people that a lot of people are very successful. They obviously can afford a designation, but I find myself having conversations with people where I'm saying it's not about, can you afford the designation? It's getting to a point where can you afford not to?
Correct.
Right. And I think that's it's nuanced, but It's kind of like our kids these days, right? You need a university education even to get an entry-level job, right? Like you go back 2 generations, right? Like, and I'll group myself in with you guys because it makes me feel good in this moment. But my dad, he grew up at a time where you could drop out of high school and then still get into college, which was very unique, but you could do it. But more importantly, you could walk into someone's office, you could look them in the eyes and shake their hands and say, "I will work hard for you." And you could get in, right? But now, oh boy, if you don't have a university degree, like good luck getting a job. And so that's amplified for the realtor. If you don't stand out and you're not upskilling and you're not making sort of a competitive, sort of differentiator for your value proposition, boy, I mean, there's a lot of competition, and I don't know if you're going to get the phone calls you think you're going to get.
Well, we have more realtors in Nova Scotia than we've ever had. Our membership's at an all-time high. So,
Wow.
you,
I heard it's because of the CEO and the president. They're very popular people.
well, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, right. But no, you need to find ways to differentiate yourself from your competitors. And at the end of the day, everyone in this industry is a competitor. They just agree to get along for the most part, and that's what makes this industry great.
So I was reading about the REIC Verified, and you've put yourself through it. Tell us a little bit about that. Is that something that somebody should be looking at to help have them stand out?
Well, you guys are sort of picking away at my strategy here. These are small little building blocks that I'm putting out there for the market to take advantage of, right? REIC Verified came out of a genesis of me sort of getting tired at chasing after the bad guys that were using credentials and specializations and designations inappropriately. And then at some point, I had this aha moment. I said, I'm going to stop chasing the bad guys and sending cease and desist letters and getting lawyers involved. I'm going to create a tool, a mechanism that people can verify their experience, their education, their expertise, their ethical standing in a very low cost, accessible way. I mean, $100, it's not like it's expensive, but it's a multi-party rigorous process that when complete, you get your REIC verified digital credential. And what that tells your clients or prospective clients, right, is that I am who I say that I am. I am licensed to practice, both in scope and in the region that I say that I am. I have the skills and qualifications that I say that I do. I have been working the amount of years that I do, and other things that, while we don't really have to talk about it too much, but that Sandi doesn't have a criminal record, that she doesn't have any judicious matters, that she actually did go to university. Or if you go the distance with it, if you are the #1 real estate in Halifax, we check. So it's fascinating to me about this because many of us that work in this business will say, oh, it's not necessary. We do this already. And yes, there's an element of truth to that. However, the public doesn't know that. So I tried to create a program that people can just treat like it's part of the cost of doing business, right? And send a message out to the industry and to the public, in this case here, at the time of selection, that I am who I say I am. I can do what I say I can do, and you're very transparent about it. And I think that is a bit of a step change in the way that we engage with clients and prospective clients, right? Instead of assuming that they trust us, it's a step in the right direction, right? And I think that's what we're seeing sort of en masse across this industry is the dawn or the era of just trust us is gone.
Right. But I think that is still going to happen with regards to the clients themselves, because we're seeing that starting to crop up as well, where we're going to be asking for the same sort of things because it's coming soon. It's
It's coming.
for everybody.
And AI is automating this, right? Whether we like it or not, guys. And it's funny because I've had a lot of conversations around this program, and one of them that stands out to mind right now is with a real estate regulator. You know, I found myself saying things like, okay, well, all right, let's say you're going to hire a realtor. Fine. Did you ask them if they have a criminal record? No. Did you ask them if they've ever been charged with real estate fraud? No. Did you ask them if they have a really terrible credit rating and they're bad with money? No. Did you ask them if they have a clean driver's abstract before you get in the car to go see a property? No. Did you ask them if they have insurance, professional liability, errors and omission? No. Did you ask them if they actually have the specialization they say they do, or is it a marketing claim? Well, I never asked. Did you ask them if they have been selling real estate for 20 years or whether their website just says that they've been selling for 20 years? No. Like, so what do you ask them? Oh, right. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do is not to create a wholesale change in the industry, but rather give people a tool, a low cost, accessible tool that they can get that baseline again, just taken care of.
And if I'm not mistaken, was that not announced here in Halifax this spring?
We launched it in your hometown.
That's what I
We
thought.
did.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
We absolutely did. And whether this is a bit of a, I don't know, props to Maritimers, but I find out east people are a little more authentic and real. And I don't know whether this is just anecdotal, but people are much more principled in the way I shake your hand. And when I say that I mean it, I mean it. And REIC Verified just crystallizes that for people. So we've had some pretty good uptake in Halifax proper, actually, with realtors and brokers, and in one case, a whole team getting REIC Verified because they wanted that to be part of their value proposition. They wanted their advertising to show the little logo.
So here's a question for those
Sure.
that are interested in doing this. How do they go about being REIC certified? Verified, sorry.
Verified, yeah. I mean, you could go to our website, www.reic.ca, click on REIC Verified, and just follow the steps. It's a complicated process because we check, but it's done by a third-party screening service. All the data is completely confidential. I don't know the outcome until after it's done. So have your information ready. If you said you have a university degree, we check. If you said that you've done your ABR, we check. And yeah, if you aren't in good standing with organized real estate, we check.
So you just said where people can go for REIC verified. Where do they go to check out the other courses and so on that you do offer?
Yeah, our website's a good start. And, we've even got a little AI assistant called REIC Robin, the little red bird. You'll see it on the bottom right of our website. You can ask her any questions you want about any of our programs, services, and or, products that we have. And she'll 24 hours a day answer your question. There's our way of helping realtors that are always on call 24/7. We've created resources for people.
Sandy and I are both taking the RSG designation this fall. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
The RSG program is a governance designation that's modeled around the ICD.D that you'll hear a lot of people talking about in terms of corporate directorship, with the exception that it's been adapted exclusively for the real estate sector. It's a program that's taught at the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management by Dr. Richard Powers, who's the lead instructor and who's part of the faculty that teaches the ICD. And it's a very interactive, intensive 3-day program that both of you, I think, will enjoy. It keeps you on your toes, and it definitely introduces elements of governance for sure, risk management and mitigation. And there's some really timely things that a simulation around data privacy and how to handle a situation where cybersecurity has become a threat, not unlike what we just saw with Korea in the last couple of months. So it's a great program. And then what REIC does is we wrap around a whole series of other events on top of it. So it's not just a designation program. It's a bit of an experience where we have a thought leadership dinner on one night, where we ask some compelling questions about the industry and get your brain going. On one evening, we have keynote speaking and engagement with the Canadian Centre for Ethics and Corporate Policy, which you both may know. I sit on that board. But again, it's all around creating a grassroots movements about governance and ethics and principle-centered leadership, which is becoming harder to do. And this course is designed to give you the tools and the skills, just to show up better in the boardroom. Because I think Roger and Sandy, whether we like to admit this or not, but in the military they say with rank comes responsibility. But when you're the president of an association of representing thousands of members, and when you're the CEO of an association, you have a responsibility to set that bar and to lead by example. And this, I think, is a way to be more practice ready for these roles, and just have more context by networking as well with 30 people from across the country taking this program. So it's a great program experience, and there's still space left if you wanted to bring the rest of your board.
I was just going to ask if you had the 30 already or whether you have more.
You know what? We have 15, and we're working. We'll have 5 more by sort of the middle of July. So there is a bit of space, and you'll see it advertised, and you'll see some other partners that are working. But I treat this a bit of a first come first serve basis, and I don't. I want the experience to have diversity for my candidates as well. So you're gonna be in the room with people that work in a property management capacity, people that work in the appraisal world, people that work in facilities management. And I find that gives you even a wider lens to the industry. We're united in governance practice and how we run meetings and how we problem solve. And we have conversations about ethics, conflict. I think this year we're going to talk a little bit about, you get ready for this, Roger, you'll be in the hot seat. We talk about executive management because, well, let's face it, we have realtors and brokers that get elected to be a board president, and Sandy, you have one employee and you're sitting right beside him. So, and a lot of people have never led the recruitment process or the human resources selection process for a CEO, or the day-to-day establishment of KPIs and what success looks like. So we talk about a variety of different leadership centric sort of core competencies that, as this program continues to develop, and we've already got a demand or an ask to run it 2 times a year so that we can get a spring cohort going through. What we're trying to do is get more people. You can see I'm revealing my whole playbook here. Give people tools in the toolbox at the boardroom level. Give the agent and the realtor on the street some practical ways they can start upskilling and just increase levels of trust in their abilities at the street level, and then create formalized pathways for people to really go, you know what? I am going to get a designation. In fact, I'm going to get 2. And here's something I know about realtors. You love to collect things. And our membership is quite funny because you will see people that get a designation and then they go, oh, I want to get my next one. I want to get my next one. I want to get my next one. And they just keep going. And I have a lot of respect for people that commit to that because it's not easy.
Absolutely. It's not easy.
I'm certainly looking forward to it for sure.
me
It's
too.
something that's of great interest to myself.
And it's really hard to ask others to do something if you're not willing to put the time and effort and the dedication into it. So if we are asking people to take courses, get designations, and raise the bar a little bit, we have to be willing to do that ourselves. So
lead by example, right? And it's funny, we operate in a bit of a bubble in this industry, and we talk about sort of organized real estate, and we talk about each other, and we talk about our board and our committee structure, and we forget that everybody's watching us, not just our members, right? And when the public sees that your board is led by a governance designated leader and the association is run by a governance designated executive officer, that sends a strong message that we're serious about education. We're serious about standards, right? And then, well, and I think people, Sandy, for those that come that are watching you in your tenure that want to succeed up into your role, again, this is another way that you can create more practice ready leadership, because we all know what this industry is like. We get sort of out of the frying pan into the fire half the time. It's like, hey, you got the job, ready for it? Because I've got a problem for you to solve on your first day. And it's nice to have tools, and it's nice to have programs like this that help people and support people, even that are a little bit later in their stages of their career.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in for lifelong learning. The education and technology are my things, so bring it on.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to hosting you both. It's going to be
I'm
great.
looking forward to it as well. So Don, any final thoughts or words for our audience before we let you get back to your Canada Day Eve?
My Canada Day Eve. You know what? I think change happens when we make it happen. And I think we REIC, to the extent that people will sort of get involved with us, they'll start to see really quickly that there are a whole variety of ways that you can work with us to help improve the level of trust, improve your brand, increase your scope of practice or your professional practice, give you pathways to learn. And you don't even have to see these all the way through, but going down this path sends a stronger message than I think you realize. And for those that are saying, well, the market's tough, Don, this isn't the time, I would counter back with, this is the absolute time to do it, right? Like the down markets and the tough times are when we need to invest in ourselves, right? Our parents used to say, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you work hard. And I think work ethic is one thing that separates the winners from the second places. And a high level of ethics and professionalism. I mean, we're giving away the playbook on how to have a successful career in real estate, but I just encourage people to go to the website and learn. And if they want to know, just call, find us. We'll help you, right? It's that easy.
Yep.
It really
Call
is.
us. We'll get you in touch with the right people at REIC, and watch out for the advertisements for upcoming courses put on by
Absolutely.
SRES.
And our partnership with NSAR is important to me, and I think as we continue to work better together as well and expand more programs for your membership, we're going to make it even more accessible for anybody, early stage, mid stage, or late stage in their career, to up their game.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm very much looking forward to having a pinning ceremony at NSAR Day. Really hoping we can make that happen. So that would be
Let's make it
excellent.
happen.
All right.
That sounds good.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you both for your
Yes,
time.
thank you.
Appreciate you hosting.
Oh, thank you.